Hello everyone and welcome back to the Voice of Veloce podcast, where we are joined with a very special guest. It is Tiametmarduk, who is newly announced McLaren Shadow Esports Ambassador. Welcome to the Voice of Veloce podcast. How are you doing?
Hey guys, pleasure to be here for the first time. Pretty exciting news getting announced recently. It's been a bit of a whirlwind lately, and it's only just starting to kind of sink in now, but it's a pleasure to be here.
What are you most looking forward to out of this new role? What if you can say any of it? What's on the horizon? What's coming?
It's kind of in the name, isn't it? Just being an ambassador for the McLaren Esports, McLaren Shadow F1 Esports team. I'll get to work with some pretty familiar faces and create some pretty cool content. That's kind of the gist of it so far. It still is very early days, but I honestly just can't wait to get started, really, and show you guys what we've got cooking.
Yeah. No, I think it's interesting that it's kind of already been cooking under the hood unintentionally. Like the narratives that you've been putting together, and I want to at some point in the podcast go through this, because there's a particular part of Not the GP Versus where you were racing against Lando and you decided to let him go 1-1 when you were already 1-0 up, which I thought was pretty interesting. And when I spoke to a couple of the guys, because me and you we've never really met, so we haven't had a good chance to get to know each other. And they were like, oh no, Ben's pretty hot on the narratives. He likes to kind of create some good drama with his content and stuff. And now that I've started going back and seeing it, I like that a lot. So yeah, I suppose that's quite a good place to start, because is that the first time you and Lando had an encounter was during the Oz GP, actually, before the Versus?
Yeah, it was the Oz GP. A lot of people think I was scripting that to kind of battle with Lando, and to a degree, maybe a little bit. But I was on this strategy that meant that I had to stay out really long on softs, and I got in Lando's way. He just recently pitted or had much fresher time. I think he was on the mediums, whatever. He came up to me, had no idea who I was. He was just like, screw you, get out of the way. And I was just loving life, having a lot of fun. And then we had this big battle in the second half of the race. And there was a lot of mutual respect there. And then over the weeks of all these different Veloce events, me and Lando just kept ending up on the same part of the track. We're just like evenly matched. And then it all came to a cropper, I guess, in the Versus, where it was literally a 1v1 for the win of this event. And I'd say the only scripted thing was, me letting him win in Spa, but then he quickly made me regret that decision. and now it's got to this point where we're technically like teammates, and it's been mad. Like Lando didn't know who I was like a couple of months ago, and now he can't get rid of me. I think he's gonna have to get like a restraining order or something.
He's singing his praises now as I watch the Not the Monaco GP. And he had to become your race engineer as he crashed out, which was pretty funny. How was that for you to have him not only in a voice chat, but like screaming, cheering you on?
Yeah, I actually forgot about that. But yeah, it was pretty mad that he was cheering me on, just telling me to just send it. It reminded me of like the old school YouTube days where I'd have like Matt or Scott or Aarav or Harry, whatever, just like telling me to just go for it. And it was really, really awesome. Like I still can't believe it that this is actually happening. Like, what timeline are we living in that, some of us F1 YouTubers are quite pally and, almost like on a friend level basis with these Formula One drivers, like the best guys in the world, and creating this kind of content. We're going to be looking back on this in years to come and thinking like, wow, that was a magical time.
Yeah, it's like two worlds colliding. Because if you think about it, you guys are at the top of your game from the F1 esports and content creator side, and they're the top of their game. So it is just a case of, I know you guys, always been F1 fans and stuff. So you kind of put these drivers on a pedestal to an extent. I think everyone does that with every sport. But when it comes down to it, I think those guys have entered your world, really. They've got into the streaming. They've got into the broadcasting side. So, I think it's awesome to see that at the end of the day, they're just the same as everybody else. And they're just as willing to get involved as anybody else would. And I think that's awesome. And I can't wait to see what you guys are going to produce with McLaren Shadow. And, I mean, I don't know how much you've discussed already, because it is still quite early doors. We've just announced it. We're putting together the pieces now. Do you have any particular pieces of content in mind that you want to do? Is there anything that you want to go into the F1 world to do now that you've kind of got that access?
Yeah, we've got some pretty ambitious plans. I don't want to say anything too early because a lot of it depends on restrictions and all that kind of thing with the current situation. But yeah, McLaren have said like literally give us all your ideas and we'll see if we can make them happen, kind of thing. So yeah, we'll see what happens. But just touching on what you just said, it really is cool to see them embracing our side of things and to see how quickly they picked up on the game and streaming and bonded it all together. And now it's almost like they're content creators and streamers and stuff. It's really cool to see them kind of break into our world and do it so well.
Yeah.
I feel like it's been really good for them as well to show that they have personality and everything like that. Guys like George Russell, who I really didn't know all too much about, and like Alex Albon as well. Become a fan of those two guys. They've really like showed their personality, and I'm sure a lot of like casual like F1 fans have really enjoyed that. I certainly have.
Yeah, it's my voice has gone really weird. Yeah, it's definitely allowed fans to, and we've said that. I think we spoke about it quite a lot over the last few podcasts because it is really the main topic when it comes to racing esports. It is, these guys get involved, and it's just great for fans to be able to get that extra bit closer. You got a hair on you.
Yeah, I just noticed that on the screen.
Yeah, it's so great to have this fan experience and get so much closer to your F1 drivers and just get to know them more like actual people instead of just being like, okay, this person I follow, I see a couple of pictures a day and I think that's their whole life. Yeah, you're still not seeing their full life, but you're seeing a lot more of them and getting to know them a lot more.
I think
I'll be honest. Like I was very starstruck when I would go, just talking real life, I'd go up to approach a driver for like a photo or something, or even in the early days of when we started doing the sim racing thing, like just talking to them on Discord, like you get quite nervous and stuff. But now, like I don't feel any nerves at all. It's just like talking to like you or Callum or Aarav or whatever. Like they're just people at the end of the day, and I feel like it's so cool to see those personalities and stuff come across. Just chill in a Discord chat, like sometimes one-on-one with either Lando or Charles. I had like a 15-minute conversation with Charles like a few months ago, and I was like, whoa, I can't believe this is actually happening. Like, what? But yeah.
That is interesting, because literally I went back and did a little bit of research on your Twitter and things like that. Your third ever tweet was referencing Charles Leclerc. It was asking if it was all right, actually. Leclerc is all right, isn't he? That was it. You said Leclerc is all right, isn't he? It was on 28th of September 2019. I don't know what happened at that point. Didn't do that much research. But it's interesting that now that's just something it's at the content creator's disposal to be able to collaborate with these guys. And I'm looking forward to seeing what they do outside of F1. We've already seen Lando, Charles, and I can't remember who they played. Crim 6, they did like the weird little F1 race style around the go-karting track on COD. Once we are allowed out again, once the coronavirus is lifted, I imagine they're going to look more to the content creation side, and they're going to produce some really cool content, especially around F1. So I'm quite excited to see all of that. But before we go any further on that, I suppose it's kind of we've started at the end. It'd be interesting to get your kind of origin Marvel sort of story. So you're originally from Australia. What got you into racing to start with? And then how did that progress into content creation and coming to the UK?
Okay, so it started off with my dad. He was a big motorsport fan. We started off with this Australian touring car series called V8 Supercars. Followed that for a long time. And then we kind of broke into F1 with like Mark Webber becoming really at the forefront of the grid, challenging for the championship in 2010. And then the F1 game came out. And that's what really like got me into, kept me in the F1 bubble, so to speak. I got into league racing. I was never aspiring to be a YouTuber or anyone even remotely famous or anything like that. I was still doing uni. Yeah. I just wanted to like record my races and show them to my friends or show them to, whatever, people on Twitter.
Yeah.
And it just kind of took off from there. Like one thing led to another. People started to enjoy it. Then I like noticed other like YouTubers who were commentating on some of their videos, and I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. Like I could do that, just take it to the next level. And I broke into career mode and started doing that. And then that's when my channel like really started to blow up around like 2013. So I was doing YouTube for a year or two or three, not really doing anything, and then started commentating. And then that's when really things started to blow up. And here we are 7 years later racing Formula One drivers, and I live on the other side of the country, other side of the world, just doing this for a living, which is crazy to me.
What was it that you were actually studying at uni, and what sort of career path did you have your mind kind of set towards?
I wasn't really sure, like career-wise. I was doing accounting because that was what I was okay in at school. So I went to uni and studied a Bachelor of Accounting and Sustainable Business. So it's like a dual degree. It was quite a big one. And then the whole YouTube thing kicked off like halfway through that. And I was like, no, I don't really want to do the accounting thing.
Yeah.
And so I followed my passion and still going for now.
Has it helped you now, the accounting? Just, that little bit of knowledge with the extra YouTube wonga that's coming in?
Mate, sometimes I can't even count the amount of laps that are in a race. Like, the amount of times I've got to, like, the penultimate lap of a race and thought, oh, yeah, this is the last lap, and then nearly binned the car because I thought it was over. No, it's not helping at all. I think, like, literally with me, like, I'll learn something, and it's, like, in one ear and out the other, so it's
yeah, I suppose if it was 2013, 7 years ago, you haven't done any accounting stuff, it's been pushed to the side of your brain, I imagine.
Just a little bit, yeah.
No, I think that's a good point, though, that you make, and this is something that is brought up on most podcasts, but that's simply because it's just a reoccurring theme with a lot of the content creators out there, and it is important to kind of reiterate this, because we have got quite a young audience, heavily from 17 to 24-year-olds and even younger, depending on the content that we put out. So it is important to say that I did the same. I went to uni and just did a very generic business course. You started to do accounting, and schools don't always set you up very well with what you want to do and give you the options out there. So, I would follow that up and tell everyone that's watching that is just try and find something you're passionate about as early as possible and find the angle that gets you a career into that area. Because when we were growing up, if you were to say you wanted a career in video games, the generations above who are kind of guiding you, they say that's not possible because it wasn't to them. So I do think it is important to whatever you're passionate about to keep doing it, and Ben's the proof in the pudding in that sense. Here he is now, is essentially collaborating 100% with top level F1 drivers from someone who used to watch it. So that's awesome.
Sometimes you just got to take that leap, haven't you? You just got to go for it.
Just got to risk it for the chocolate biscuit.
Exactly. Exactly.
What's the saying you say? Is that if you can't send it, rear-end it?
You can't send it, rear-end it. Yes, very much. That could be taken out of context. And not.
Yeah, I wouldn't hold up in court, would it? Your Honour, he said, if you can't send it, rear-end it. Nah. Case closed.
Yeah, I mean, it's difficult, isn't it? Like with whatever you want to do. I think with accounting, I almost couldn't visualize myself doing it. It was very a theory-based thing. I was just like, I was studying accounting, but like, what do I do once I actually become an accountant? Like, what does my actual everyday life look like? Mm-hmm. But with YouTube, I quickly was like, it was very hands-on. I was doing it, and I was like, yeah, I like this. Like, let's keep doing this. And so, yeah, I just kept going. But yeah, even I had to really convince my parents that this was like the right thing.
Okay.
In the early days, like, why? Get off the Xbox, get off the games. Like, it's not going to amount to anything. And, they still throw around that quote now. They're like, oh, how foolish were we saying that? And now they've done a complete backflip, and they're like really proud of like what I've done. Whereas like in the early days, and I told them I wasn't going to do uni anymore, they were like, ooh, really like taken back about it. But
yeah,
thankfully, I've been able to prove them wrong.
Yeah, and they've obviously been supportive enough to let you actually pursue it, Or was that a major struggle as well?
I mean, it was in the early days. Like, my dad used to take the Xbox off me if I wasn't like.
Okay.
Yeah. It was a struggle early on. Like, I didn't have a laptop that was good enough to make videos, to actually record videos with an Elgato. I had to borrow my sister's laptop, and she would only let me borrow it like once a week, and so I dedicated that for like my league racing videos.
Yeah.
And like, I just happened to like keep recording one day after a league race, and I struck upon this video gold where this safety car like exploded my car and got like a million views, and like it really set things off, and I was able to get my own laptop. And
I was gonna say, at what point did you convince your sister to let you use it 24/7? You could have offered her shares,
Yeah.
So on that then, I suppose we're talking from the start. Where does the name Tiametmarduk actually come from?
Okay, so it's a bit weird, but I got it from my mum.
Okay.
Apparently, it's two Babylonian gods, Tiamat. I've actually spelt it wrong. It's spelled Tiamat, not Tiamet.
Okay.
Tiamat and Marduk. Tiamat is said to create the earth, and Marduk is said to destroy it. They're like brother and sister or something. But anyway, I don't really believe in it. Anyway, Mum joined the two names together. I saw it and I'm like, oh yeah, that's cool. And so I used it for like RuneScape and lots of other things, and it just happened to be my YouTube name when I got started on
like
YouTube.
that.
And
That's cool, because many usernames have no origin to it, and it's interesting that RuneScape was your first one. So I've got a funny story about RuneScape. I wanted, like, being 10 or innocent is what I thought. I wanted Ass Blaster to be my username on RuneScape.
You can't send it rear
legit. I wanted Ass. I don't know why. I was like, I thought of it as if like I'm gonna, blast everybody to pieces. I don't know, but anyway, it was taken, thankfully. It ended up being Blaster Bob was my actual name on RuneScape because Ass Blaster was taken.
Ass Blaster. What I love most about that is that it's already taken. So there was another 10-year-old that really wanted that name. It was there's probably Arse Blaster like taken through all numbers as well.
It
like,
was.
You're just there putting in through different numbers. No.
It suggested Blaster
Bob.
Bob.
Be able to make a username out of that. That's mad.
So Blaster Bob, I can't remember what level I got to on RuneScape.
Were you one of those, because your name was Bob, were you one of those people who was just like, the classic Bob character on RuneScape? Yeah. Were you the green shirt, brown shorts, bald guy just wood cutting all day?
No, I went for the black armor with the gold trim. That was my aspiration because it just looked so sick.
RuneScape was a classic.
It was. Do you ever jump into RuneScape?
I did, but I don't feel I played enough compared to you lot. It was, I think I came to very sort of late on.
Yeah, fair. It's one of those where
dying down again.
Yeah, it's if you've got like a couple of really close mates that play it, then you kind of instantly get tied into it. I suppose it's like Warzone now, where everyone's on it. There was a few lads that I was in my friends group that were playing every night, so I was like, let's do it. Little laptop on my bedside cabinet.
It came out on mobile a couple of years ago. I played it quite a bit on there because when I worked at Tesco, a lot of people know I basically did absolutely nothing when I worked there. Murder. Shut up. So I just got out the back, and I also knew a lot of people who worked in the phone shop, so they got me on RuneScape on the mobile, and it would just be like them in the phone shop. They could get away with doing nothing because if they were on their phone, no one questioned it because they could just say, "Oh yeah, I'm doing something phone-wise." Whereas, so I would hide out the back. So I was on my own out back, and I'd just be on RuneScape with them lot playing it just to get through the work day because I was so bored and didn't want to do any actual
That would
work.
get me through the work day in a heartbeat. To be fair, RuneScape.
There were so many things I did to get through that day.
Yeah, so I mean, on the remastered topic, Crash Bandicoot got remastered quite recently. Ben, did you dive into any other content like that? Because I know you said that Crash was the first game you ever had, if I'm not mistaken. Did you jump back on the remastered version?
I did. I actually I got invited to an event for it in London. I think it was a year ago.
Cool.
Which was really, really cool to see. Like, I got invited to an event that really kind of got me into gaming in a way.
Yeah.
It was the Crash like series. I did one video and it didn't do well. I don't know why, but it just didn't. I think that's a savage thing about like F1 content is like people like we want F1 and that's it. Like it's quite hard to break into everything else. But yeah, Crash. I love the franchise. It's really fun games to make. It was like the Mario Kart before Mario Kart, if I'm not mistaken. It's one of those games where you can just jump on with mates and just have so much fun.
It was Sony's Mario Kart, really, wasn't it? Because obviously Mario was Nintendo, and they had that. I don't know what came out first. Nintendo 64, I know, had Mario Kart, similar time to Crash Bash, was it?
Oh, did it? Because Crash Team Racing,
Crash
the original,
Team Racing, that was it, yeah.
Was like late 90s. So if there was a Mario Kart before that, then I'm completely wrong then.
I think Mario Kart 64 was like 97. It was similar era, but it was definitely Sony's answer to it, or Sony's equivalent, wasn't it? But yeah, so did you at any point do any other content for a period of time that wasn't racing based, or have you found that it's been just obviously sticking to what you know and sticking to one genre always helps with YouTube, but at any point did you try and branch off?
I've tried to branch out into other racing games.
Okay.
So like Project Cars took off well for me a few years ago. Every year or every time a new game comes out, like with Forza, I'll try and do that. Gran Turismo for me this year has been quite fun to make. So when like the new consoles come out, I'll definitely give that a go. For I think Gran Turismo 7, if it's coming out, give that a go. But yeah, like I said earlier, it is pretty hard to like break into something that isn't F1 because F1 people are just, I don't know, so rigid in like their thought. They like just want F1 and that's
most
it.
closed-minded fan base ever.
Yeah.
I would go
We
to
love
the
you guys, but
they're loyal, Hayden. It's loyalty.
Oh, iRacing.
we love you all, but expand your horizons.
People take well to iRacing. I will give them that. So
Okay.
that's been fun to dive into with with you guys doing the endurance events or just doing solo stuff. People really love iRacing. So it's something I keep saying I want to do and want to do more of, but then I never get around to doing it because something new with F1 happens and but maybe later this year.
It seems like a big learning curve, iRacing. You guys are way more experienced than I am, but whenever I see those come up, it does seem like a lot more difficult to get into, require a lot more time. Is that true?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd say so. Setups are the main thing really with iRacing, whereas F1 you can sort of set it to fix setups if you want. That's what I do on my lobbies because I don't have the time to look at setups myself, so I won't bother. I'll just set on my lobbies to fix so that everyone else has to run default. Whereas iRacing is completely open and the setups there, unlike F1, the setup can gain you maybe like 4 attempts. Setup in iRacing could gain you 2 seconds.
Oh, right, okay.
Sometimes they can be massive amounts depending on the car.
It's pretty ridiculous.
It is a learning curve.
The handling model is so much more complex than F1. With F1, you can just download a time trial setup and be pretty much on the pace in any league just about. But iRacing, you've got to learn the handling model for hours and hours and hours and hours and then find a good setup. Like most people who are good at setups will either have it behind a paywall or they'll guard it with their life. Like trying to get a setup is ridiculous. It's just 2 completely different worlds, but it really is satisfying once you get into it.
I agree with that. Very rewarding when you do a race and you actually work your way through the field. Whereas F1 can just, it's just a different genre, isn't it? It's arcade and simulation.
Yeah.
And it just depends on what, as a fan, you like. Do you just prefer jumping on, hopping on and be able to be quick straight away? Or do you prefer to put in the time and the effort and then reward yourself by being quick?
Yeah.
That's just the 2 differences between games, really.
No, that makes
sense. Did you guys see, there was an article that came out recently. I don't know if you saw it. It was possibly about the F1 game having maybe a simulation version of the game. Like, that'd be pretty crazy.
Made by the same people who make Project Cars, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think I saw.
It'd be interesting to see like what their take is on that and like how that would affect like the more casual, the game that we know today.
That's pretty cool. Interesting because my racing knowledge is pretty low, Ben, just so you know. And everything I know I've learned from working at Veloce for the past couple of months. But I definitely feel like from like a grassroots perspective, F1 is such a good bridge to get people into racing because you can do it on a simpler level. I could pick up a controller and play it, and like Hayden says, do it on fixed, even do it on automatic gear changing and things like that. And then you can get to the point where you're competing with the esports guys. And even in our races, like it's quite evenly matched. And I feel like everyone who's at the top has just as good chance of winning as somebody else. And I think it's awesome in that sense. It's really competitive. But I do see when you get to iRacing, that's when, like, if you have very little experience of the game, you're not even going to come close to someone who's good at it. So it would be awesome to see an F1 transition into that because that'll really separate the men from the boys, I imagine.
Yeah. I think if they very much keep it similar to how iRacing has built their one, where you've got different tiers as well that you can feed in. Like, if your level, your license is not high enough, you'll go into a lower tier against people who are supposedly a similar level to you. So you wouldn't just be thrown in the deep end and just be like 20 seconds off the pace. But it's just a case of whether they do that or not, or whether they just go, here you go, here's the lobby, go have fun with it, sort of thing.
Yeah. What was the article? Where was the article published? Was it quite a credible source, Ben, or?
I'm not actually sure.
Yeah.
Like,
no,
it
fair
was
enough.
a week or 2 ago. Yeah. My memory is horrific.
So I suppose on the F1 news that we've had is we now have a bit more of a schedule for almost like coming out at the end of COVID, post-COVID. So do you want to kind of set us away on that one, Hayden, and what we know so far and what we expect is going to happen?
Okay, so yes, F1 have announced that their calendar. So it's coming back. It's coming back in I think like a month today or a month tomorrow, or something like that. It's going to be start of July, 5th of July. Yeah, Austria. Then it's going to go next weekend, Austria again. Then I think after that it's a triple header. So then it goes to Hungary, and then I think it's a weekend break. Then it goes Silverstone again, then Spain, then a break, and then Belgium. And then Italy, I'm pretty sure. So it's quite a very busy schedule that's supposed to come up. So the topic is really, is that too many races in a row? Because that is the most that anyone's ever done. I know we've come out of this big situation where a lot of races have been cancelled. So the first thought would be like, yeah, now let's replace them all and just do them all now.
Try and cram them in.
Yeah, it's a different sport to like football where you can sort of do that a bit easier and do, one weekend and the other, because there's a lot of stuff traveling, a lot of people traveling and spending a lot of time really away from like their family and stuff like that. So that's really the main debate, is like, is that too many races?
Yeah, and so far what we've had, have all of the teams seeming to agree, or have any of them stood up and said we don't want to do that? Because I know, to start with, I think McLaren were the first team to be like, no, we're not actually going to race in the Oz GP. Yeah. And then obviously, So have anyone spoken out and saying they're not ready to come back, or is it just pretty agreed?
Well, that was all in Australia. That was all because basically the ruling was, if anyone pulls out of the race, that means the race is cancelled.
Okay.
If one team pulls out, and no one races at all. And McLaren, I think one of their team members tested positive for coronavirus, or a few of them. So for safety reasons, they pulled out for that reason. And then there was a big old debate of that, because everyone said that, and then they didn't action on it until like a couple of days after. Yeah. So everyone was just like, well, we're waiting.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was so. I think all teams have gone ahead. There was also the news of reverse grid races as well. That was shut down by the teams, or well, Mercedes at least.
Mercedes,
they decided against it. Which is a bit weird.
I mean, I can't really comment as to what would be good or bad in that, but they've been pretty interesting in the virtual races.
Yeah.
There's good and bad sides to it. Obviously, good that we're going to get a lot more races in, and the teams won't have to travel as far for these double headers at Silverstone and Austria, respectively. One thing that is bad, though, and I saw someone talking about this the other day, is those second races that we're doing at a particular track can be a bit... There has the potential for those to just be flop races, because historically, races where we've had not much running or not much like testing tend to be absolute bangers, because no one really knows the strategy or how it's going to play out. Whereas if you do the exact same format one weekend and then the same the next, everyone knows the strategy going in. They know the tyre wear, they know everything. So everyone's just going to be doing the same thing potentially. This is where I hope that maybe it's going to rain on that second weekend and we get something completely different. Maybe we can bring back Bernie's idea of turning on the sprinklers. But I mean, at this point, I don't know about you guys, but I'll take the extra racing. I just miss F1 so much.
Well, that's a good point, because they've been so deprived of it. It's worth just getting back to it as soon as possible. So I don't blame them at all. And I imagine the sponsors are crying out for, obviously, to get their money's worth, or whatever agreement they've got. And in double header races means that they're going to get double, the exposure of the cars and more viewing time and stuff. And I don't know what you guys think, but I imagine that F1 may still do a few exhibition races in between. Sorry, not exhibition. I think they're still going to do the pro races in between before the actual F1 Esports season kicks off, and mix it in with the official F1.
Yeah, I'm it's a bit unsure on what's going to go on with the F1 Esports and that whole scene. I'm guessing the virtual GPs will just stop because we go back to normal. There's no need for their ones anymore. But the pro one would be interesting to see what happens, whether that was just filler or whether they look to carry it on. I personally think that they should carry on. I don't know. We were asked the McLaren Shadow ambassador what he thinks about it, but I think they should carry on.
I think it makes sense, instead of cramming everyone into London, wherever the hell they have to go. This puts people at risk, I think. So I think they'll carry on in some way with the format that they're doing, kind of remotely. Everyone's at their comfortable setup, and if they don't have the right gear, then their teams will sort them out. So I don't think that'll be an issue. If anything, I feel like it makes everything closer because, like I said, equipment doesn't come into it, and I guess the only thing is like how they start off the whole proceedings, because we're meant to have we were meant to have the pro draft, weren't we, in April or May?
Yeah.
And they're meant to go through all of their challenges and stuff. How is that going to work now? How are all the teams going to pick that? But once we get going, I think, remotely is the way to go. I think it can progress ahead relatively unchanged, to be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see what, like you said, with the pro draft. Because I know there's a lot of people, because it could be a case of letting down a lot of people and being like, sorry, we're going to have to do this next year, or fitting it in very, very rushed. I don't know.
Yeah, it's tricky because those people who have spent all that time trying to qualify over last year, like through the qualifiers and everything, like, I feel like those people may get screwed over because some of these teams are going to have to pick people they already know are proven, as opposed to getting their normal shot that they would have if COVID wasn't around. So it's a tricky one, but
could it be done remotely?
We'll just wait and see.
Pro draft?
Possibly.
I reckon it could be done remotely.
Yeah, we just get them all into a race and stuff.
You've been a couple of times. I've been a couple of times as well to the pro draft.
So what does the pro draft actually entail then? What I know you mentioned there challenges, Ben. So they do like a full series of challenges, and then people like the races would pick. So you'd be in the crowd like noting down who you want to pick. Is that kind of how it works?
It's the team that they have representatives that they choose, but they there's a small sim racing element. They do like a couple of races, I think. It's hard because I haven't actually been there for the whole process, but what I think they do is they do these different challenges, like they'll get you to do like PR challenges, like interviews, or in the past they've done go-karting and fitness challenges, and one year they went to Silverstone and they did like pit stop practice, all these just random challenges that test them in different ways that they might not have prepared for. But I guess now they might just have to put them all together in a sim race or tournament or whatever, and then teams can pick who they want from that.
Yeah, so I suppose that those other challenges are going to get a little bit more of their personality, and like you say, see how they deal in different scenarios, because you're only getting a very small window. If you're seeing them in one or two actual races, you're not getting a good idea of like how they perform under like a specific like mental stress or anything like that. And that's a good point actually. But I feel like you say though, they have to give them something from the pro draft.
Yeah.
They've got to give them the opportunity. Even if it is lesser than previous years.
I'm sure they will. The guys at F1, they're smart. They'll figure it out.
Yeah, true.
Ben's just like, don't ask me these questions. I'm not here to sort out. I'm just here to pick someone at the end of the day.
If they trust me with that, Don't ask me.
It'd be quite cool. We were saying it in, I don't think the last one, maybe the one before, but I think it might have actually been the last one. But we're going to have you in McLaren, and we're going to have Aarav in Alpha, head to head. I think that's going to be quite exciting. Like, are you looking forward to going up against Aarav? Like, the banter between the two of you, know each other quite well. You've known each other for a long time. So I presume that they should get you both in, like, TV interviews and stuff like that. That'd be quite fun. Yeah,
that'll be quite funny to, like, duke it out, both with our drivers on track, but also us, like, behind the scenes in the media and the interviews, and have a little bits of banter together. I'm really looking forward to it. I can't wait to get it underway.
That will be awesome, to be fair. Yeah, like having like is this rivalry before you even kick it off? So there's definitely some good narrative to come out of that one.
Yeah.
Mickey, you'll be waiting to see what stuff you can clip for socials and be bugging Ben to just call Aarav this name or something like that.
Yeah. No, I'm looking forward to it. I mean, it's been quite tough from a socials perspective. Now that we've missed the GP for a week now, and it does dry up so quickly when there's just very little racing going on. So I am looking forward to getting into the pro draft, something that we've been talking about and I've never experienced. So yeah, and now that we've got such a big Veloce kind of presence at these events, it's going to be even more fun for the full squad, I think.
Well, I was just about to ask you something, and you just basically touched upon it as well, that you've never been to one of these events. You haven't seen what it's like behind the scenes, what it's like. So I want to know what you envision, what you think happens in one of these things, or what you'd like to happen from someone who hasn't been before and sort of like knows what goes on.
For me?
Yes.
Okay, right. Well, I mean, the problem is I've got a little bit of an insight. Jamie's told me a little bit about it. I know that...
Jamie.
I know they use the cinema in Fulham. Is that correct? Is their setup? I've seen a couple of the videos from it. So I would like to see a crowd for a start. I don't know how big of a crowd they have and just to whether or not they let people off the street in, like to pay, or whether it's only team members. I'd like to think it was people that anyone can walk in essentially and pay for a ticket, but I don't think that's the case. Yeah, just a lot of neon lights, which I've seen, which is good. Anything sort of neon lights attracts me in, hence the room. Yeah, it's just something that's a bit more integrated. I find a lot of the times when you see like a football game, for example, you don't get a lot of the behind the scenes stuff. Whereas I feel like with it being a lot of content, esports driven, we can get a bit more behind the scenes. I've seen yourself, Hayden, interviewing Danny Brezne and things like that. When I saw that, I didn't know, we had a good relationship with Danny. So I'd like to think there was a good kind of all around feel where everyone feels integrated and has the confidence to go around and talk with anybody, pick up tips. So if you were a fresh driver, it's never competed before at a very low level and wants to go and speak to someone like Ben or like Danny, it's open sort of floor to do that. From my perspective as a content shooter, that's what I'd like to see because it's behind the scenes footage I want to get on the Instagram Live and the Twitter Live. So I just think that would be better content to show someone. But I don't know. I don't know if that's going to be possible or not.
You've got it quite well, to be fair. You have sort of got most of it. When you say about a lot of them just sort of chatting with each other and being very relaxed, a lot of these guys have known each other doing league racing and stuff like that. So they've always been like either voice calls or forum chats and stuff like that. So they have good knowledge of each other.
Yeah.
So when they are after races, you can just see people from different teams mixing, just having a chat, laughing with each other. It's basically very much like you're seeing your friends like... It's like school's done for summer and you've met up with your friends like halfway during summer. You sort of miss them, and you're just like chatting with all these different people. Like you've all just met for football or something like that.
That's cool.
That's very much what it is, where they've all just sort of come from different countries. They're meeting each other in person, haven't seen each other for ages, and then just like catching up and having a laugh at each other.
That's a good point you make, because if they are coming from different countries and the teams aren't massive, then it is a case of what are you going to go and do on that evening if you're staying over in London? It makes sense to stick around and collaborate with the guys.
Oh yeah, we're always partying. There's always an after party every single time. Don't you worry, boy. There is always an after party.
Sweet. No, I'm really looking forward to it.
Wetherspoons, getting some bevies. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. It always is fun. I have missed that so much, going to esports and catching up with everyone, because a lot of people go, whether it be like the F1 people, Codemasters, Veloce guys. Like, we've got a massive bloody presence. They're gonna have to start kicking us out. We're taking over. It's ridiculous.
We actually are. There is actually so many of us.
Disguised as well. We're going to have Ben in McLaren kit. We're going to have Aarav in Alpha kit. We're not going to have an.
But that's the thing, though. Now Ben and Aarav are in their kits. That means that's 2 extra slots for Veloce that we can take along. So we get to take more of us. We're just going to come and storm the party.
That's one thing I would like to see more of, is like people from like the public coming, because that was my understanding. Is I thought you could buy tickets and just go see it, but no, you literally have to get invited in by someone like whether it be Codemasters or one of the teams or whatever. But the venue just isn't big enough for that. Like the place is pretty full as it is anyway. I think they need to expand to somewhere else, but I guess that isn't really a priority at the moment.
Yeah, especially with like groups gathering, that might not be the best shot.
Yeah.
The thing is, for them, I don't know if they're just worried that they're not sure how many people would turn up to an event like that. And until you actually do it, it could either be a success or it could flop, not. Yeah. Like, you could pay to have this big event or big event space, and then nobody shows up, and it's like you've wasted all that money on it. It's like when I went to the Rocket League one in Madrid. There was a lot of people there, don't get me wrong, but there was still quite a lot of empty seats as well.
Okay.
But you got to think that's a massive stadium with thousands and thousands of people, from what I could see, like capacity wise.
Yeah, there was a big capacity. There was definitely over like 5,000 or 6,000 people there at one given time. So that's still a lot of people. Don't get me wrong. I don't think F1's ready for that. But if you extended it to somewhere like maybe a cinema that has another side either side, and you extend that to fans over the side, and you have the same in the middle, then I reckon you'd fill out those if you had like an extra 100, 200 people that could go into an event space like that.
Oh yeah, they could definitely draw a crowd. They could come for the esports drivers. They could come for people like Aarav TV, and especially if they gain wind of like sometimes F1 drivers turn up, and I feel like people would definitely show up just for the chance to see them in person.
No, I would agree. I think especially since like the F1 Esports has almost carried the torch for F1 since lockdown started. So I think it's it's got to be way more on the radar for a casual F1 fan. So if you haven't got the ability to travel to an F1 racetrack and you're a fan that would like to do that, this is a really good alternative, and then it's going to grow the audience from an esports perspective. So I do think now would be a really good time for putting COVID aside, if that wasn't a thing. I almost feel like you could gather quite a big audience, especially if you're putting on a party as well.
They need to throw an official party.
get Spock over for
yes, 100%, definitely.
That was sick.
But I suppose you just have to look at the numbers that watch the actual live stream of the F1 Esports event.
Good point.
Because it is sort of separate from the virtual GP. It's not like you don't know which one's going to be where, or it's one whole big show. Well, I suppose it is one whole big show together, but they're on separate different times, and you know which one's going to be on which, and you can easily just tune in. So it'll be interesting to see how many people do tune in for that esports. It's definitely over 1,000. So there's definitely an appetite for it, and they definitely need to open up to a few people. Like at the moment, it's win tickets from Codemasters. Like a few people can win.
Okay.
We've met a few people that have met us because, you know, if you're that into F1 esports and you're that into, you're gonna know the likes of Ben, you're gonna know the likes of Aarav, so
Danny and
exactly,
and all them.
That's
so we've chatted with them before, but yeah, it definitely needs to be opened up to some sort of paid ticket.
Yeah, and just you make a point there how, like, you know, people who are interested in the F1 space will look up to, you know, the likes of yourself, Ben, Aarav, and so on. So, yeah, 100%, dude. So I'm curious, when you were coming up, you know, through the ranks of YouTube and the likes, and even still now, are there any particular content creators that you look at, whether it be in the racing space or out of it, that you particularly take inspiration from, or anything like that?
Yeah, I've definitely had my fair share of inspiration.
Oh, cheers, Ben.
Yeah, Hayden Gullers from Gullers Gaming. Check him out. Makes the best content in the community. He's on the rise, he is. There's been so many guys over the years. Early days, it was like this guy called Athlete VG. Into the Barrier. Even still is an inspiration to me. He makes such good content, massively underrated. The likes of Black Panther, Jimmy Broadbent makes really good videos, Super GT. We're quite blessed to have so many talented people in the racing game sphere that make so many different types of content. And occasionally I like to draw inspiration from all of those guys. So yeah, it's good.
There's a host of people you can pull on from like an inspiration perspective. Like if you are listening out there and you want to get into F1, Ben's just listed an absolute ton there to take on, who are at the top of the game. So you've said the people that you've potentially taken inspiration from in the past or still currently do. Is there any content creator that you would love to work with on a particular project that you've ever thought of? I know you said you've discussed a lot of ideas with McLaren, so maybe something that you are allowed to disclose. Is there anything in the past you've thought, I'd love to work with him or her on X project? It could be anything.
Oh, in terms of a content creator, I actually haven't really thought about that.
Fair.
I've always worked with smaller content creators, to be fair. It always has been a dream to make a one-on-one video with a Formula One driver.
Okay.
Racing on the game and just chatting with them and having some laughs and doing whatever. Because I think that video would just absolutely take off. Like Aarav's done it in the past with, I think, Kimi Räikkönen, and that was an absolute banger. I'd love to do the same. And yeah.
There's a smile there. So is that already in the works potentially?
Yeah, that's all I'll say.
Nice. No, fair play, man. No, well, I'm definitely excited to see the content that you've got coming up because it's always good, and the further you guys get into it, the more elaborate the ideas often get, and I'm excited. And I'm just glad that Not the GP is actually had such a positive effect on bringing a lot of these guys together. So yeah, have you spoken with McLaren about racing in any of the other races potentially, or is that again something you're not allowed to discuss if it is the case?
Any other races? What do you mean?
As in like the pro exhibition races or anything like that, the virtual GPs, that sort of stuff. Can't discuss.
No comment.
Yeah, fair play.
One thing I want to ask you as well quickly. Daniel Ricciardo going to McLaren. Obviously,
Oh, baby.
You're Australian. He's your favourite driver, and now you could potentially. Well, you are. You're going to be working for the same team as him because it's going to be that crossover period most likely for while you're still there that he's getting into it. So that's got to be really exciting for you.
Oh, dude, I can't believe it. Like, the stars have literally aligned. Like, I knew about the McLaren deal for me, and then I had to keep it quiet and not tell anybody. And then I saw Ricciardo gets announced, and I'm like, holy crap! Because, yeah, I love Daniel. Daniel's an absolute character. He's a superstar, and I've met him in the past, and he's just as he comes on camera. So I'm really looking forward to hopefully working with him one day, and just seeing how that relationship unfolds. I'm going to be a mess. I'm going to be such a fanboy. I don't even care.
Have you met him before?
Yeah, I met him in Australia quite a few times for Melbourne, Abu Dhabi. I think every time I go to a race, I do try to see Daniel if I can. I saw him in Spain as well earlier this year, briefly. Yeah. I don't think he knows who I am, so whatever. It's what it's
not yet.
Well,
not
yet.
Yeah.
Yeah, he'll be soon sick of me, I'm sure.
Where is he from? A similar part to Australia?
No, he's on the other side. So Australia is the same size as like North America. I'm from the East Coast, and Daniel's from the West.
Okay, whereabouts? So he's from Perth, I'm assuming then.
Yeah.
So whereabouts are you from?
I'm from Brisbane.
Okay, yeah.
The Sunshine State in Queensland.
Yes, I didn't know drinking games are actually banned in Queensland. Well, they were in 2010 when I went there. We were in a place called the Woolshed, which is up in Cairns, and we were.
Cairns.
It's a really cool club / pub. I don't know what you would call it. So if you're ever in Cairns, the Woolshed, it was just like casual restaurant place during the day. And we were eating there, went out on the balcony for a couple of drinks, went back inside, and the same restaurant we'd been eating at, it turned into like this ridiculous dance on the table, sort of Nerderhut German, like it was mad. And anyway, so we were outside on the balcony, we thought, oh, well, we'll get buzzed, start playing some drinking games. And the bartender comes over and was like, no drink games are allowed in Queensland. And we were on a school trip, we all turned and we were like, we're in Queensland? we didn't even know we were in Queensland at the time. We were like, this is Cairns. So yeah.
I've lived there my whole life, and I've never heard that. That's a bit.
I'll have to look into
fishy.
that, but we genuinely got stopped from playing drinking games in Cairns. It was Cairns Woolshed, it was called. Okay. So yeah.
There might be stricter rules up there, but I know for a fact that you can't really drink in public. Like, you can't be walking around with a stubby in your hand and just having a go. But drinking games, like, well, everyone has drinking games. I don't know what that's odd. But
I've got no clue. But yeah, we did a tour of Australia. It was absolutely insane, and Brisbane was unbelievable. We stayed. It was All Saints Anglican, I think the school was. That we like stayed at.
Wait, say that again. So
All Saints Anglican School, I think it was.
Okay.
We would like bill it, so we would play the school at rugby, and then go and stay at some of the houses of the guys who were on the opposite team. And it was honestly beautiful part of the world. I was blown away how amazing it was.
Yeah, Brisbane is amazing. I do miss it a lot. Like, so picturesque. Like at Kangaroo Point, I don't know if you ever went there. You get like the view of the city and the river. The whole skyline looks really cool.
We didn't do that. I'm annoyed now.
You're missing out. There's also the Gold Coast.
Will take us back.
Yeah, we went to the Gold Coast. We surfed the Gold Coast actually.
Nice.
And then I don't know if this was the same. But we surfed twice. One place was called Surfers Paradise.
Yeah.
Is that Gold Coast?
That's pretty much the Gold Coast. Yeah, that's like the main bit. They got a racetrack there.
Okay.
A street track, but they turned it into a racetrack every October. Yeah, it's really sick.
Awesome.
It's like our version of Long Beach.
Okay.
So really?
Better looking. Yeah.
So what's
I don't even know how we got onto this, but yeah.
Asking about Ricciardo, weren't we? And then
yeah.
So what is from like a racing perspective in Australia? What's like their national racing sport? Is F1 like the most predominant?
No, it's V8 supercars, so that the touring car series. Okay. F1 is even more of a niche in Australia. Like the general public will know about V8 supercars. Whereas you've got even less of a chance of people knowing about F1. Like I know, apart from my dad, no one I know watches or even likes F1. So it's very difficult. Whereas here, I know it's still a niche sport here compared to like football and whatever, but it's so much more generally accepted. And I feel like motorsport in general is. I think in Australia, we're all just very uptight. Nobody likes cars or going fast or anything like that. You're a criminal if you do. So, yeah.
It could be the temperature, because like I imagine sitting in an F1 car at the best of times, like it's pretty sweaty and pretty hot even in the UK, and then take that to Australia, which I am extremely pale and don't do well in the sun. It was hot in Australia, especially like the northeast.
Yeah, we're hung up on our bloody cricket and rugby. We are. That's our main sports.
Yeah.
Like motorsport comes nowhere near. Yeah, so it's very lucky that we get as many drivers as we do come through the ranks every so often.
What was your favourite sport growing up? If you enjoyed any?
Probably tennis. I really enjoy tennis. Yeah, I did fixtures and tournaments and stuff. I did like cricket, but I was scared of the ball because
it's solid, isn't it?
It's like a cricket ball is a lot harder than a tennis ball.
It's like a cannonball coming towards your face, isn't it? It's like, no thanks.
Yeah, you don't want to get hit by one of those puppies.
Definitely not, man. My brother plays cricket, and he's I don't know what you call it, the webbing. You know, the webbing in your thumb. He's split both of them. It's like when you go to catch the ball. I don't know what the correct tech is, but like it's hit that part of the webbing twice. Just split down.
My dad
cool.
was my dad's a wicket keeper for cricket, and he's broken I think just about every finger on his on both of his hands. Like it's a brutal sport, and that's even with like the proper wicket keeping gloves on as well. So
I don't know what they expect.
Mental.
Like you say, they're launching these balls at each other like 100 miles an hour. I don't know how fast you can bowl. Like we'll have to find out how fast Joffre can bowl, but that could be some good content. See if you can catch a ball from Joffre.
Even just trying to hit a ball that he bowls at you, that's going to be the challenge.
Yeah, Jesus. I think you need hockey pads instead of cricket pads for that one.
You're going to need a bat that's going to be the size of like I've got like a heater, your radiator. You'll even struggle to hit it with that.
Imagine like a big old shovel. Just.
I'm hoping one day we can clip this exact conversation and put it into like the middle of Lords, and Ben stood with a radiator facing off against Joffre. Like, let's go.
That's mental as well that we've got Joffre on board with Veloce. That is one like collaboration which I just did not see coming, but I'm really excited to see what you guys do with that.
Yes.
They just keep on coming, don't they? We just
mental.
don't stop. Veloce just doesn't stop. We just keep on going and going. If you think of someone, we'll try and get him.
Oh man.
Lewis Hamilton, let's go.
Yes, well, we'll try our best. That's the next step. Lewis, I know you're a regular viewer or listener on the podcast. Give us a call, mate. We're waiting.
If you fancy a game of COD, we'll take it.
We'll happily play some Warzone with you. I mean, I'm rubbish. Carry me.
We're all rubbish. No pro team coming anytime soon.
Yeah, we've got no wins at all.
We actually don't.
It's very bad. Right, I think that's a good way to leave it off, I suppose.
I agree.
Hit the 50-minute mark.
Good stuff. Well, Ben, thank you very, very much for your time. We look forward to seeing what you've got coming up with McLaren. Shout out just on that, guys, in the comment section. Take a guess as to what sort of content you think is going to come in the future with Ben and McLaren, or what you would like to see Ben do in a collaboration with McLaren. The sky's the limit. It's just a comment section, so go wild, and you never know, it might actually happen.
Yeah, go crazy, because it might actually give us an idea that we haven't even thought of yet. So, McLaren are keen to do lots of things, and so am I. So we'll see where it goes. But it's been a pleasure, guys, and I've been keeping up with all these podcasts. They've been really interesting, and I'm keen to see who you get on next.
Oh.
Thank you very much.
I'm your biggest fan.
A lot of you are. Aaron said the same thing, so it means a lot that you guys listen. I hope everyone's enjoyed listening at home. Don't forget to leave 5-star reviews over on iTunes. Check us out on Spotify if you want to just listen to us, maybe when you're driving or just chilling out or something like that. Don't forget to smash that like button, subscribe to our channel, check out Ben, and we'll see you again next time.
Cheers, guys.
Bye.